Did you know that there is a country with more than 5,000 years of history? That was once the largest empire in the world, but today is one of the most misunderstood places on the planet? And the most curious part is that this doesn't happen because of a lack of information. It happens because almost everything you've heard about it is only part of the story. In this video, you will discover facts about Iran that don't appear in the headlines and that completely change the way this country actually works. Stay until the end, because the last fact doesn't just surprise, it makes you reinterpret everything you saw before. Iran is not just an ancient country, it is one of the oldest continuous civilizations in the world. Long before it was called Iran, this territory was known as Persia, and it had already been inhabited for more than 7,000 years. While many modern nations did not even exist as an idea, there were already cities, traditions, and complex social systems functioning there. And most importantly, this did not stay in the past. This historical depth still influences decisions, behaviors, and even the way people live today, even if almost no one notices it at first glance. Today, Iran is the 17th largest country in the world by land area, larger than all Western European countries combined, and is home to around 90 million people. But what is most interesting is that this size is not only geographical, it is also cultural and social. Within the same country, there are contrasts that seem to belong to different places, creating an internal diversity that many outsiders do not perceive. And that begins to explain why Iran is so difficult to label. Many people are surprised to discover that, despite being in the Middle East, Iranians are not Arabs. They are Persians, with a completely distinct language, culture, and identity. This changes everything, because the country's cultural logic does not follow the same pattern as other neighbors in the region. The language is Persian, not Arabic, and the way of thinking, expressing oneself, and even relating to others carries its own influences, which explains why so many external interpretations simply do not fit. Centuries before many European empires even existed, the Achaemenid Persian Empire, founded by Cyrus the Great, already dominated territories stretching from Egypt to India. At that time, it was the largest empire the world had ever seen, not only in size but in organization. Roads, administrative systems, and ways of governing different peoples already existed there. And some of these principles still echo today in ways that few people directly associate with Persia. Cyrus the Great was not known only for territorial conquests. He also created something that many historians consider the first human rights document in history, the Cyrus Cylinder, now preserved in the British Museum in London. It contains ideas about religious freedom and respect for conquered peoples, concepts that seem modern but emerged more than 2,000 years ago, and help explain a side of Iran that rarely appears in current narratives. Persepolis, the ancient ceremonial capital of the Persian Empire, was built around 2,500 years ago and still stands today in Iranian territory. Its ruins are not just historical monuments, but visual records of how a civilization organized itself on a monumental scale. Recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, Persepolis reveals details of power, art, and symbolism. But it also raises a question: how did such an advanced civilization reach the point of disappearing? In 1979, Iran went through an Islamic revolution that completely changed the course of the country. The Shah was overthrown, and in his place emerged a theocratic republic led by Ayatollah Khomeini, something that directly mixes religion and politics. For those looking from the outside, this moment seems like a sharp break in history. But in practice, it redefined social rules, behaviors, and even the way the country presents itself to the world, creating a new layer that many people are still trying to understand. Despite the more conservative image that many have of the country, Iran has one of the largest university populations in the world, and more than 50% of students are women. This creates a contrast that challenges external expectations, because while certain social rules are strict, access to knowledge continues to grow intensely. This balance between tradition and education generates a type of society that is not easily predictable and that functions in ways that are not always visible at first glance. Every year, on March 21st, Iran celebrates Nowruz, the Persian New Year, a tradition over 3,000 years old that marks the beginning of spring. For 13 days, families gather, homes are prepared, and specific symbols are arranged to represent renewal and balance. What is most interesting is that this celebration has passed through empires, religions, and political changes without disappearing, which shows that behind everything there are cultural elements that remain stronger than any historical rupture. Few people know, but chess has its origins in ancient Persia, and still carries marks of that. The expression checkmate, for example, comes from the Persian shamat, which means the king is dead. More than just a game, it reflects a strategic way of thinking, where every move has consequences and anticipation. And perhaps it is no coincidence that a civilization known for its organization and planning influenced something that requires exactly that, even if almost no one makes this connection. The Persian carpet is not just a decorative item. It is considered one of the most sophisticated forms of art ever created. Each piece is handmade, using techniques passed down through generations, and can take years to complete. Some can have more than 1 million knots per square meter, which requires almost obsessive precision. But what is most interesting is that these carpets tell silent stories and reveal a kind of patience and aesthetic that cannot be explained only by function. Iran is the world's largest historical exporter of pistachios, and this small nut, which many people associate with luxury or occasional consumption, actually originates in the Persian region. In many parts of the country, pistachios are part of daily life, the economy, and even local traditions.
أهلا وسهلا.
What is
تفضلوا
curious
أجود
is how
المكسرات.
something so simple carries
20 ليرة
strategic
للكيلو.
importance,
تفضلوا.
showing that
طازة
in
من اليوم.
Iran even
شكراً لك.
seemingly small
عفواً.
مع
details
السلامة.
can play a much bigger role than they appear. Iran is one of the few countries in the world where transplantation, and even the buying and selling of kidneys, is legal and regulated by the state. There is an organized system in which the government mediates donations and financially compensates donors, something that practically eliminates transplant waiting lists. For those looking from the outside, this may sound strange or even controversial, but within the local logic, it is a practical solution to a problem that many countries have not yet managed to solve. Tehran, the capital of Iran, has more than 15 million people in its metropolitan area, more than the entire population of Portugal. And contrary to what many imagine, the city is extremely modern, with an efficient metro system, wide avenues, shopping centers, and skyscrapers. This
حلو
contrast
المكان هذا،
between
وايد
external
زحمة.
image and
إيه
urban
تعالي نشوف
reality often
المحلات هناك.
surprises
خلاص،
those
بس
who
ما
arrive
نطول.
for the first time,
القهوة هنا مرة طيبة.
and reveals a side of the country that rarely appears in common perceptions. Iran hosts the largest population of Afghan refugees in the world, with more than 3 million people living in the country. Over decades, migratory waves from Afghanistan have been absorbed by Iranian society, creating a complex coexistence that is not very visible to outsiders. This continuous flow reveals a side of the country that rarely appears in global narratives, and raises questions about how this integration actually happens in daily life. Even facing international economic sanctions, Iran maintains an active space program and has already managed to launch its own satellites into space, something that few countries in the world can do. This reveals a technological capability that contrasts with the image of isolation often associated with the country. In practice, it shows that scientific development continues to happen, even under conditions that, theoretically, should limit this type of progress. Iran contains an impressive climatic diversity within a single territory. While in the north there is snow and icy mountains, near the Caspian Sea there are dense and humid forests. In the center, arid deserts dominate the landscape, and in the south, warm beaches stretch along the Persian Gulf. This contrast creates very different lifestyles within the same country, which helps explain why talking about Iran as a single thing almost never works. In southeastern Iran lies the Lut Desert, considered one of the hottest places on the Earth's surface, with recorded ground temperatures exceeding 70 degrees. It is an extreme, practically inhospitable environment where human life is minimal. But what is most interesting is that even within a country with dense cities and fertile regions, there is a place like this, almost like another planet hidden within the same territory. Iran has 27 sites recognized as UNESCO World Heritage Sites, more than any other country in the Middle East. These locations range from ancient ruins to preserved historical cities, revealing layers of civilization that span thousands of years. But what stands out is not only the quantity, it is the continuity of this history in the present, as if different eras still coexist in the same space. Iran is one of the countries with the highest concentration of poets per capita in the world, and poetry is part of everyday life in a way that surprises foreigners. The poet Rumi,
Welcome!
one
Fine
of the most
pottery,
widely
very
read
old.
in the world for
How much
decades,
for this one?
including
For
in
you,
the United
special
States,
price.
was Persian and wrote about love, compassion, and universal spirituality. This reveals a cultural dimension that goes far beyond politics, and that may be the key to understanding what truly sustains this civilization. Iran is much more than what appears in the headlines. It is a civilization with thousands of years of history, which has influenced art, science, philosophy, and even the way societies are organized. When you connect all these points, you realize that the common image of the country is only a superficial layer. And perhaps the most surprising thing is this: it's not that Iran is difficult to understand, it's that almost no one has been taught to look at it in the right way. Perhaps the most interesting point about Iran is not any isolated fact, but the way everything connects. A country with thousands of years of history, its own cultural identity, implicit social rules, and a logic that does not follow the pattern we are used to. And that is exactly why it seems difficult to understand. At its core, what this video shows is not just about Iran. It is about how we interpret the world using limited references, and how that makes us misinterpret places that are far more complex than they seem. The next time you look at a country, a culture, or even a person, perhaps the question should not be, "Why is this strange?" but rather, "What have I not understood here yet?" If this video made you see Iran in a different way, leave a like. It really helps the channel. And if you want to keep discovering places that the whole world thinks it knows, but doesn't truly know, subscribe here.